Hello and welcome back to The Lion's Den. I'm your host, Matt, as always, and I suppose this week's been kind of pretty quiet, not masses going on. So I've got a few talking points today that I'd like to go through. One of the interesting things was yesterday, some fun Smash stuff happened. So I mean Smash Bros, the game, Ultimate in particular. So one of the things I do is I'm part of GameSoc, which is the video game society at my university. And every Wednesday night from 7 till 10, that's the official hours, everyone can meet up and play a selection of games online. Normally when we're not having to stay at home and social distancing, they'd have a bunch of game consoles set up in a room. We could go and join other people and play tons of multiplayer stuff, which is always good fun. And I really enjoy it because it's a good opportunity to play Smash kind of casually. So instead of playing one-on-one competitive Smash, it will generally be with multiple people, up to 8. No, actually, sorry, online can't do 8, but you can do up to 4, which is good fun. And I always pick random because I apparently hate myself. No, I'm kidding. I pick random because I think it's a very interesting way to play the game because it forces you to be quite adaptable and think on your feet because you don't know what character you're getting. You have absolutely no game plan until you get into the match and start fighting. And by going random as well, it means that you start to build up a lot of knowledge around every character, or at least many characters, because random is random and sometimes random decides to give you the same character multiple times in the same night. Anyway, it means that you can then apply that knowledge when you're fighting against that character because you know how that character works to some extent, which I think is very helpful. But it also means that there's this wacky element to it because you don't know what character you're getting and you don't have an idea as to how you're going to try and win. So you're making things up on the fly as you go, and that just leads to some insane moments. So an interesting thing that happened last night in particular is my final match. Obviously, I was going random the entire night. I got Ken. Now this was the second time I think I'd got Ken last night, which was again random, weird. But anyway, I'd figured out by sheer brute force of wiggling the control stick around how to do the true input for a Hadouken, but I didn't know how to do a Shoryuken, the true input. And the funny thing was, I accidentally inputted it by mistake and got a kill early on in the game. So then I was in a Discord call with a bunch of people that I was playing with, and I was asking one of them like, "Oh, can you tell me how to do the input?" Well, he managed to actually find it, tell me it. I figure it out mid match, and by sheer dumb luck, that's how I won the match. I just kind of ran up to the dude that was left, managed to perfectly input the Shoryuken as they dropped their shield and win the match. It was insane. Everyone was screaming in the chat. It was great. And I love that kind of random element. And I think it's definitely something you should try if you're into Smash and if you're enjoying the competitive side as well as the casual side. I mean, obviously, you will have the odd time when you get like Bowser Jr. or Little Mac or Olimar, and that's not fun, but it also is hilarious at the same time. So, what's up with the weather? The weather has been so bizarre because we're slightly transitioning out of winter into spring because it's at the end of February. Blimey, where is this year going so far? But it used to be around 0 degrees Celsius here for ages because that's kind of the temperature range that we'd expect in the UK. But I noticed recently that the forecast has been saying things that it's like 9 to 13. And I was sat there thinking, when did it get warmer? So weird. This also brings me to a slight oddity, is that there's a weird gap between one of my windows and the frame. So it's the big main window that you can swing and pivot open. And it was the other night I could see out of the corner of my eye as I was sat at my desk that the curtain was kind of wafting a little bit, and I was very confused, and I thought, oh, is the cat in here? Is she sat on my windowsill and she's causing it to move? So I kept checking, and no, there was nothing there. And eventually I thought, this is really odd. I can almost feel like a breeze as well. There's a really chilling, cool breeze. A couple of days go by, and I went to my window and I was feeling around because I was thinking that was really odd. And then I noticed that you can actually see daylight straight through this crack in the side of my window. It was so weird. So yeah, that's something we're gonna have to get fixed at some point because yeah, it was just bizarre. It meant that the room was getting really cold overnight when we didn't have the heating running because we were asleep. But the funny thing as well is that because of that tiny gap, there was a bunch of road noise getting in that I'd never noticed before until it was gone, because we just stuck some electrical tape over it for the time being, which has improved the thermal properties and the acoustic properties of the room quite a bit. So another thing that I've been doing recently is I went on a music dive. So I do most of my music listening through Spotify. Yes, I am a Spotify scrub. And my liked songs, which is where I just listen to all my music, goes back to about 2017. That's when I first joined. And it's crazy. The music that's on there is wildly different to what I've been listening to more recently. So, for context, I know a lot of people will find one song brand new that they've never heard before and absolutely love it, and then they'll listen to that one song on repeat for ages, and then you kind of burn out. I do a slight variation where I'll find maybe 4 to 5 tracks at a time, and then I'll listen to those on repeat, which means the longevity of how long a track lasts is so much longer than if you did it with a single track, because you don't burn out as quickly. But that means that there's just these chunks of music in my library from each kind of phase, I guess you could call it, that I'd found. And it's really weird that even though a lot of the music is quite different genres and artists to what I'm listening to now, I still enjoy loads of it, if not all of it, which is quite helpful because it means I've got hours and hours and hours of music in there that I can just listen to. So that's always good. There's also a lot of memories tied to some of the music, mainly just because that I was listening to that music at a time when a significant event happened, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's nice all the same because it means that your brain doesn't actually have to remember it, because the minute you hear that music, your brain goes, oh, this thing happened when you last listened to this song. So that's nice. It's kind of just association, I suppose. You know, when people have really strong association of a memory with a smell or a taste or a sight, it's the exact same with music, which is quite nice. It's kind of a hidden way to store memory in your brain without actually using up your brain memory. It's weird. Brains are complicated. Humans are complicated. Speaking of complicated brains, have you ever had that weird noise that you think you hear but isn't actually there? It's in your head. It's really annoying. I think it's called tinnitus. At least that's what it's called here, where there's that kind of high-pitched, staticky noise that you might hear sometimes when you're in a really quiet room, or if you've got like earplugs in or something. I get that as well. Not probably to the extent that some people do, where it's really loud and can throw them off and make significant problems for them. But I get it a lot at night, especially because obviously it's quiet at night, or at least you'd hope it'd be quiet at night. So it can make sleeping kind of difficult because your brain focuses on that noise and that's all it can think about. And I find as well that if you focus on a noise, it tends to get louder, even though it's not getting louder, it's in your head. So there's something I've gotten used to recently is a thing called white rain noise. So you've possibly heard of white noise, which is noise that's comprised of all frequencies of sound. So it sounds completely flat and like nothing. If you then add the element of rain over top of it, it gives you something recognizable, but that is also not stimulating to your brain. So what I find is if I put it on quiet, sort of fairly quietly at night, it's going on in the background, and that's the thing that my brain latches onto and listens to, and therefore my brain's being occupied with something to listen to, as opposed to letting it wander and hear all the horrible noises and the weird thoughts in your mind. So I'd recommend trying that if you have a similar issue. It's also just a good way to fall asleep if you can't get your mind to shut up. But anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed listening to my ramblings once again, and I will see you all next week. Bye.